This meeting is being recorded.
So good evening, everybody. Hello all. I'm Vignita, Education USA Advisor at EduSA India via Access Foundation, Hyderabad. And I welcome you all to the US University Prepathon virtual series. Today we are going to discuss about academic life, ethics, and code of conduct. So I request all attendees to please mute your audio and video for a better webinar experience. For your information, this webinar is being recorded. We'll start the session soon. Attendees on Zoom platform can type your questions in the chat box. And YouTube viewers, please type your questions in the comment box. We'll answer all your questions at the end of the session. Please also check out the links and resources and handouts posted in the chat box. So I would congratulate all students out there. So congratulations, students. I see, Education USA advisors, we see students working throughout the year to reach this stage, and we are very happy about your well-deserved success. I wish you all the best. And I would also like to wish women who are going to be engineers by pursuing their degree in the US, as today is International Women in Engineering Day. So congratulations to you and all the very best. Today's session is the third part of the US University Prepathon virtual series. So this series is specially designed to prepare admitted students thoroughly for the transition to academics and life in the US. The first session was on June 9th, and this will continue until July 28th. Here we have variety of resource persons from university representatives and professors to students and alumni who are here to give their insights and suggestions to the admitted grad and undergrad students. So I know, students, you must be very excited to reach your campus, and at the same time, I know you will be having number of questions on what to do and what not to do. All your questions will be answered very shortly. So this US University Prepathon series covers wide range of topics starting from your travel plans through academic and student life on campus. You can know about university resources and support services available for international students especially. You will know about how to be career ready and have a stress-free transition. And we'll also talk about takeaway from the US study program. As I told you, uh, professors, alumni, students will be here present at the session to answer your queries. So about Education USA. See, Education USA is a global network supported by US Department of State, and we have over 430 centers in 170 plus countries. Education USA is the official source on US higher education. Here we provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information to students who wish to pursue their higher education in the US. There are about 4,700 plus accredited higher education institutions, and we give unbiased information and we represent all these accredited institutions at Education USA. Coming to India, we have 8 advising centers in 7 cities. The centers in Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, and New Delhi are hosted by USIEF, United States India Education Foundation, and the center at Ahmedabad is hosted by Indo-American Education Society. Center at Bangalore is hosted by Yasna Trust, and I'm speaking from the center which is hosted by Y-Axis Foundation, Hyderabad. So we help students and explain them the 5-step process. We guide students right from searching for options, planning for finances, application components. We guide students with this. And we also help students with the visa process and pre-departure orientation. This Prepathon series is part of preparation for your departure. So you can always stay connected with us and participate in our sessions like panel discussions and alumni-led sessions. You can also share your story and association with Education USA to be posted on our social media. So we have presence on YouTube, Twitter, Insta, and Facebook. So on the screen, you see all contact details. We request you to reach out to the nearest center for individual guided advice. You can find this as a handout in the chat box. Or you can also take a screenshot of it. Uh, Students here, we have a very small, quick activity for you. I would place questions on the screen. Please analyze the situation given and give your opinion in the poll. These questions will ignite your thinking along the lines of academic integrity and ethics in your coursework, which is the main topic for today. So I'll launch the poll now. I request students to take some time, read, and give their answers. So I hope everybody can see the questions for poll on screen. So your first situation is your friend who is a good writer makes changes to your paper by adding new arguments to help support your thesis. Do you think this is academic dishonesty? Great, great. Yeah, majority of students answered yes, and you're absolutely right. So the next question is, you are in an advanced language class and are some trying to write a composition. So you write some sentences in English and use an automatic translation program on the internet to help you out. Do you think this is okay? So I see, majority of them saying it is not okay because you cannot use automated programs for your assignments. So the third question is if you miss a citation for an idea or phrase from a secondary resource, but that resource is listed in your bibliography, are you still guilty of plagiarism? So here I see 71% saying yes and the rest saying no. I see mixed responses, but the right thing to do is to cite the idea and phrase. Great. It's good to see that most of you have an understanding of academic integrity. These concepts are universal and they apply to any educational system. Uh, Everybody must be knowing about it. But see here, since you're representing our country at prestigious institutions in the US, we would like you to have a better understanding of ethics and code of conduct. So this session is all about that. Now, I would like to take this opportunity and introduce our panelists, Ms. Whitney Miller and Zeba. Whitney is a director of partnership operations, marketing, and recruitment at Illinois State University. She completed her MBA from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and Masters in International Education from Middlebury Institute of International Studies. So welcome, Whitney.
Thank you so much.
And we also have Zeba. She is one of the Education USA at Y-Access Foundation students. She took our help for last spring session. Though she completed her bachelor's in technology, she went ahead and pursued her interest in clinical psychology. And now she is pursuing master's in behavioral health at University of Minnesota. Welcome, Zeba. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Vikmita.
So now, without delaying, I would like Whitney to take over and give her insights to students. Whitney, I'll stop my screen now.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my presentation. While I'm pulling this up, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I've already been introduced so well, but I will add to the introduction that I did also used to be a professor as well. So not only do I have a lot of experience with academic integrity and academic dishonesty and kind of, clarifying the lines as a student myself, but I've also helped students along the way here. So I'm very happy to be here and discuss this with you today. So we are going to just touch very quickly on the idea of academic integrity, which is, of course, the good side of being a student. And academic integrity comes in many forms, but it doesn't just limit itself to your assignments. It also goes into the classroom and even just at the university as a whole. So whether you're in the classroom, whether you're outside of the classroom, you are a student of this university and you should be holding integrity throughout your day-to-day life and being a good representative. But academic integrity in the classroom really means that you are the ideal student, that you're coming to class on time, you're reading in advance all of the reading you're supposed to be doing, as well as doing all of the assignments on time. I will remind you on time here. Of course, you are supposed to pay attention in class. And a big part of that, especially in today's world, is turning off your phone. Don't worry, you don't actually have to turn it off, but you at least have to put it away. We don't want you to be sitting in class on your phone because that really doesn't help you as a student, but it's also distracting for other students. Being respectful for others in class, if someone gives the wrong answer or says something that's a little bit wrong, making sure that you understand that all students are here to learn. So making sure you're being supportive of your other students during that class and as well as outside of the classroom. And of course, doing your own work, which is a little bit more what we're going to go into further on in my presentation. Just so you know, as a student at any university here in the United States, you will have access to your university's honor code. What this honor code is a set of rules, regulations, standards that the university is expecting you as a student to follow. It's fairly straightforward. Every university has one, but it just outlines what you're expected to do as a student, as well as, of course, outlines what might happen if you are not following the honor code. In addition to that, if you are a graduate assistantship, or perhaps you are working in a laboratory, or even a teaching assistant, you will also be following a code of conduct. This code of conduct might differ from lab to lab, right? If you are in a scientific lab, part of that code of conduct might be that you're wearing glasses. But that might not be the case if you are in a psychology lab, right? And by glasses, I mean protective goggles, of course. So you are expected to follow these regulations that are set forth by the university, by the laboratory you're working in, your graduate assistantship, if you have one, for example. But it's important to follow these rules because they're not only there to keep you honest and keep the environment of learning in that university, but also for your safety in certain scenarios with those code of conducts. So when you start at the university, make sure that you review that honor code, the code of conducts for where you're working, where you're studying, to make sure that you're having the best experience. So now moving on to the dark side of the academic world, which is academic dishonesty. Academic dishonesty can come in many forms, and I'm going to go over a few of these today in a little bit more detail. You are probably familiar with most of these, but fourth down on our list, plagiarism, is quite possibly the most common offense at a university because there are, in fact, so many ways that you can commit plagiarism. So we're going to go over that in depth as well. First, cheating. Everyone knows that cheating's wrong. I think that that is a universal cultural aspect, that it is wrong to cheat. But cheating in effect, especially in an academic situation, is misrepresenting the mastery of a material or the academic subject. Ways that you can cheat, I think we're all familiar with looking at your neighbor's paper and copying during a test, right? We all know that that's cheating, but cheating can go even further than that. Unauthorized copying, for example, if you ask your friend for an assignment, or you ask your friend for what they put down for this question and you change your answer to that question, that would be considered cheating and often even plagiarism. Unauthorized collaboration on assignment. This is actually one that I find very common amongst our international students that I've worked with at many universities that I've worked at. But the unauthorized collaboration is when you and your classmate are working on an assignment together and turning it in separately. And I use the word unauthorized because there might be situations where that is allowed. Group assignments, of course, you are able to work together with your group, but you might be able to ask a professor, are we able to work together on this? Then it would be authorized. But if you ask and they say no, that's unauthorized. If you do not ask, it is unauthorized. So make sure there's clear communication about the expectations for your assignments with those faculty. Using prohibited materials on tests and assignments, again, very straightforward. This is cheating off of your neighbor's exam. If you're an online student, for example, or even if you're just taking one class online, if you're taking an exam on your computer and you have notes next to you and that's not allowed, that would be unauthorized materials. Similarly, if you are taking an online class and you are taking a quiz or test on your computer and you have a side open of the internet and you are looking up questions while you are taking that exam, again, that is considered prohibited, unless, of course, your professor tells you otherwise. Misuse of electronic devices, same thing. You're sitting in class and you're not sure of an example on a test and you text it or type it into your phone. That would be prohibited. And really any other deceptive mean to gain academic credit. Assisting. This is similar to cheating, of course, and does go into plagiarism, but this is the other side of it. This is if you, as a good friend, are trying to help your other friend who has an assignment and you are helping them complete their assignment. This would be inappropriate. This would be assisting. So keep in mind that you can get in trouble with your university, not only if you are doing the cheating, but also if you are helping someone do so. If a friend asks you to help them on their assignment, the best thing to do is to say no. If you have questions, I recommend going to your professor's office hours and they can help you with that. And one note, of course, here is that selling or offering your assignments to another person is also very, very much prohibited and is a very grave offense. Fabricating, similar to cheating. This is just when you're basically making things up and claiming them to be true, falsifying your research if you're doing research in a laboratory. If you're using data in a paper that you're writing or even your own research, if you are inventing or even exaggerating that data, it's considered fabrication. And of course, listing incorrect or fictitious references. So if I don't know a piece of information and I'm running late on an assignment and I say, I need a fact that shows X, Y, and Z, and I just write it down and I make up a reference, that is also fabrication. And then the last act of academic dishonesty that I'm covering today is plagiarism. And like I said before, plagiarism is the most common area where you will see students getting in trouble at a university. And oftentimes it's unknown to them that they were even committing plagiarism. So it's very important to understand what's considered plagiarism, what is not considered plagiarism, and also to protect yourself really by citing your references down the road. So plagiarism, if you look at Merriam-Webster dictionary online, there's two definitions that are given, which is to steal or pass off the idea or words of another as one's own, or to use another's production without crediting the source. So you're stealing someone and saying, I did this work, or you're using their work and not citing their references, or a combination of those two. It can also be, if you're looking at the intransitive verb, to commit literary theft. So that really puts a good spin on it, where you're not just writing a paper and taking someone's words and claiming them as your own. You're actually stealing this person's academics and their academic discipline and the research and work that they have done. So it's a very grave offense, especially in academia, but also in the real world. Keep in mind that what we're talking about with academic honesty, academic dishonesty, academic integrity, all of these factors also go into the workplace. So even if you're in the workplace, if you're doing an internship or working after you graduate, plagiarizing someone else's work and presenting it as your own can only come back to hurt you. So, types of plagiarism. There are many, many types of plagiarism, but I have selected kind of the 6 ones that I see the most often in academics. And the first one is quite possibly the most obvious: word for word plagiarism. You find a paper, a research paper that's exactly the topic you're supposed to write about online. You take it, you don't change anything, and you submit it as your own. You probably would have changed the name though. So keep in mind that, of course, this is the most obvious form of plagiarism, and this would not be accepted. Block plagiarism. So this is where you find, a piece of information you're looking for, and instead of submitting, the entire paper word for word, you just choose sections. I'm going to take this paragraph here. I'm going to take this section here, this sentence, maybe these couple sentences here. I'm going to use this graph, and I'm just going to put it in here and present it as my own. Keep in mind that if you're taking certain aspects of someone's paper, such as a graph, such as a few sentences, or you're even quoting them, that's okay as long as you cite your references. But if you are not citing, that is considered plagiarism. Self-plagiarism. This one is actually very common, and most students don't understand that this is plagiarism. This is when you take a piece of work that you have turned in as an assignment to another class for academic credit, and you get in another assignment. Maybe it's a year later, maybe it's 2 years later, maybe it's even just a couple weeks later, and you actually use your paper that you wrote before, or even parts of the paper you wrote before, and copy it into your new assignment. This is called self-plagiarism. Again, you can get in trouble for this. However, my recommendation to you is, if you wrote a year before an academic paper and you're like, this would be very helpful to use in this new paper, it's very similar, I've already done the research, you can do so, but make sure you are, number one, referencing yourself. So you actually have to put yourself as a reference and your citation in the new paper, but also ask the faculty if that is okay. Some faculty might say, you can use certain parts of it. Some faculty say, no, you have to do a completely new assignment. Various source plagiarism. This is when you have 5 tabs open on your computer and you're kind of mishmashing everything together. You're saying, okay, I like this sentence and how they said this over here. I like this sentence over here and this sentence down here. And you just kind of put it all into one paper. And again, not citing these as references or using proper citations with them. And then our last 2 types of plagiarism that I'd like to cover are find and replace plagiarism, which again is very, very common that I see with students. Find and replace plagiarism is you are actually trying to kind of scam the plagiarism system. You take word for word someone's work, and you're actually just going to pull out certain words of theirs and replace them with your own words. So really nothing has changed in the ideas or the thoughts of this, but you're just replacing key words to try and trick the systems into not recognizing that plagiarism. And 404 plagiarism is probably the least common, but I still do see it from time to time. And this is when you are citing a reference and the link you give for that reference is broken. So when you click on the link, if a professor wants to check that reference, it will lead to a 404 error page on the internet. So this is again considered plagiarism, and you can get in trouble with it and even be asked to produce the correct link later on. It can be a mistake. So if it does happen to you by mistake, don't worry, you can just provide the professor with the correct link. But if you're doing this on purpose, again, it is effectively plagiarism and academic dishonesty. So that was a very, very quick introduction to kind of academic dishonesty, academic integrity in the university system, but also in life overall. But it is important for you to understand the consequences of academic dishonesty. if you were to be charged with any of these academic dishonesty aspects during your time at the university, there are a number of different things that can happen to you, and that will depend on the university that you are attending and if you have committed prior offenses often. You may receive a written warning. Most likely this will go on your academic file permanently. So it will show that you have committed plagiarism, for example, on your permanent file. You may be put on academic probation. So if something else happens during that academic probation, you could theoretically be dismissed from the university. You can get reduced or failing grades on the assignment where you have done the offense, reduced or failing grades in the course overall. So certain courses, if you are caught, with plagiarism, for example, you could just get an F in the course, no questions asked. Suspension from the university, of course, is possible. And then the worst case scenarios is dismissal from the university. So that's just the academic consequences for your university that you have. So we'll talk about a little bit more about the personal consequences about this as well in a little bit. But there are ways for you as a student to avoid academic dishonesty. The first and the most important, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is time management. Most of the time, I've observed when students are committing academic dishonesty, they are doing so because they didn't have enough time to complete an assignment. They waited until the last second. They realized there's no way for them to finish this by the due date. And so they start pulling these sources and they start missing citations even. So that's the most common time frame where you'll actually get pulled into these situations. So making sure, first and foremost, that you are aware of what you need to do. And this starts with the syllabus. As a student, in every class you take here in the United States, you will be presented with the syllabus during the first week, or sometimes even before. It will be sent to you via email. The syllabus tells you everything you need to do to get an A in the class. It tells you all of the assignments. It tells you when those assignments are due and answers a lot of the questions about what the professor is expecting of you in that course, as well as gives you a really good outline of what you will learn in that course. So it's very, very important, of course, to read that syllabus, to put when assignments are due in your calendar, and to think in advance. Stress also, of course, similar thing. If you have too many things happening in your life at that time, stress can be pulled in. Again, time management is a huge aspect of decreasing that stress. And then the other four here are kind of similar when clumped together: motivation, interest, laziness. It's just, oh, I have this assignment due. I really don't want to do it. I could probably just pull something from the internet and get it on there. So, even if you have that lack of motivation, making sure that you understand this academic integrity and are using it in your assignments. Confusion and competition, again, can be clumped together, where if you're confused about what you're supposed to do, if you're confused about an answer or a solution to a problem that you're supposed to be looking at, there might be some incentive to ask a friend or even to try and find the answer on the internet. My recommendation, of course, in that sense, of course, is always to ask questions. And of course, competition. You want to be the best. You want to be the best student in the class. You need to get that A. Your parents are expecting it. You need it for the next class, for example. That is another reason that students often will commit academic dishonesty. With that said, avoiding it. First and foremost, always make sure to cite your references. There are different aspects of references that you might be asked to use. For example, MLA versus APA. I will not go into that because one of our panelists, Zeba, will talk a little bit more about that later. But making sure you're carefully citing your references throughout every assignment you're doing is one of the most important steps that you can take. Group projects. You will, of course, during your degree, I guarantee it, do at least one group assignment. So keep in mind that when you're doing a group assignment, you're designating that code of conduct with your group, what people are expected to do. You are actually collaborating on this and you're actually completing your part. What I see with group projects and academic dishonesty most often, more than anything really with group projects, is one member will not complete their part, but still ask for their name to be put on the assignment, which of course is plagiarism and dishonesty. You are claiming that other students' work is your own. So make sure that when you are in group assignments, you are actually completing the part that you've been designated to do. You're collaborating that with them, and you're really learning from each other through this process. And finally, for the resources that you can use to make sure that you're not committing academic dishonesty during your degree or any assignment are your resources. As a student, you have a number of resources that you can use in order to help you with your writing, help you with research, and ask questions about what you're not understanding. So writing centers, every university will have a writing center nowadays. Often it's in the library is where it will be housed, but the writing center is there to not only help you do research and kind of help you find references that are viable references, but also they can help you with your language. They can say, you know, the grammar here, this is a confusing sentence, and they'll actually help you with your language. But also then if you need to cite a reference, they'll help you understand the correct way to do so. So writing centers are really invaluable sources of information and resources for students. If you go to a writing center and you work with them on creating assignment, again, that's not considered cheating. They are there to help you through this process. So they're not actually doing the paper for you, but it's a learning experience for you in order to ameliorate your writing. The library, of course, librarians are a great resource for all students that are often not utilized enough nowadays. But if you're having trouble finding references, they can always help you and even help you with those citations. Faculty are potentially your greatest source as a university student. Something culturally that I will mention about academics here in the United States is that the faculty want you to ask them questions. They'll have office hours every week where you can go in and say, I'm really struggling with this problem and I'm not really sure how to find this. Can you help me understand what I'm supposed to do here? Or I have this research that I'm doing and I'm not sure about this result. Can we talk about this? Even when you're in the classroom, if you have a question, you don't understand what they say, raise your hand, ask that question. You'll be surprised. It's very rare you are the only student in the room with that question. So asking questions is your biggest tool when it comes to your academics, and those faculty are there to help you. And that is their goal. It's their goal for you to learn. Finally, of course, the internet. We all know, of course, today that the internet is a vast source of knowledge. Use the internet when you need it. Use the internet for research. However, make sure that if you are completing assignment and you are doing doing research on the internet, that you are then citing those references. With all that said, my last bit of information for you all is just some advice from me to you, both as a student, as someone who has been a faculty member, but also someone who has experienced a lot of different cultures and academic cultures as well. So first, make sure you review that syllabus. Top to bottom, make sure you have that calendar and you put in when those assignments are due for every class, so you know what to expect, and then you are able to, of course, plan ahead. I have run into so many scenarios where students are like, I have an exam and a final paper due and X, Y, and Z for this class, and I just don't have the time to do it all. And often the answer you will get, you should have planned ahead. So make sure, of course, that you are planning ahead. And if you do have a day, it might happen where you have 3 exams on those days, ask a professor if you can take the exam early. Ask them if you can do it a couple days early to let you prepare for the other exams. And honestly, they will probably say yes. If you ask to take it later, they might say no, but early is generally not a problem. And of course, if in doubt, ask. If you're not sure if you're able to collaborate on an assignment, if you're not sure if what someone's doing is plagiarism or is cheating, it never hurts to ask. Say, are we allowed to do this? I'm not sure. Everyone will help you through this process. And again, we're really there to help you learn. And that is, of course, my last piece of advice for you, is to remember that you are coming here to the United States or wherever you're going in the world to study. You are there to learn, right? You're not just there to spend money and get a fancy piece of paper. At the end of the day, you're there to learn, and you're there to experience this university lifestyle. So cheating, being dishonest, anything along these lines is really only going to hurt you and your aspects for a career further down the road. If you're not fully understanding this information, and being, of course, National Women's and Engineering Day, I will give a shout out to our engineers. If you're an engineer and you don't understand an assignment or a very key piece of this engineering curriculum, that can only hurt you further down the road. So ask questions, always plan ahead, review the syllabus. It'll tell you what you need to know and what you're expected to do. And of course, more than anything, have a wonderful, wonderful time during your degree.
Thank you so much, Whitney. This was very informative, and I believe most of our students' questions are already answered. And you really had great points on avoiding dishonesty and time management too. I think students should be very approative in the classroom so that their questions are answered and their doubts are clarified before submitting their assignment. Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Whitney. So students, I know she did answer. I mean, her session and presentation was very informative, but still, if you have any further questions, please do type in the chat box, and YouTube viewers can put their questions in the comment. So moving on to Zeba.
Yes, I'm right here with you.
Yeah, hi. So, so tell me, what was your experience on your day 1 in the classroom?
So I got COVID and I could not attend my first class. But what I heard from my classmates is in the first class, you have introductions where the professor actually sent us to this area, this common area, and we introduced ourselves to each other. Then I went to the second class, and what I understood from the class is that my class was more of an interactive way, because we are learning counseling. We are learning different methods of counseling for people with addiction problems and co-occurring disorders, so how to handle them. So we had to really exercise some of the, statements and how would you respond to client statements. So we kind of interact with each other. So that's how my class, the first in-person course went. Okay. And what I noticed is the difference between India and here is that your participation here matters. Back in India, I think depending on the course, the teacher is lecturing and you just sit and listen. But here in the US, or maybe in the course that I took, our teacher is going to ask you questions. She's going to listen to your answers first, and then depending on the answers you give, she's going to tell you what was right and her experience on the particular question. And the professor I had, whenever a student asks question, the professor asks the others to answer it before she can answer the question. She wanted to know what others think of the question and what answers do they have for the question. And everybody gave good answers and the professor added to it. It was more like we already know the answers. We just have to, think critically. That was a really good experience for me. It was, of course, different. And now the other in-person class I had is again the same way. What I did observe is that everybody is here to help you, especially the faculty members. You ask them any question, they're there to, answer it. You can shoot them an email, but please be polite and you don't have to be too formal, but, decent enough emails you can send and you can ask them any questions regarding anything. And we should not be hesitant to ask question thinking that, okay, this might be a silly question, but trust me, no question is silly. Many others might have the same question as you, just like how Pitney pointed out. So before doing anything, if in doubt, ask questions. That's all I can say. So yeah, I had a wonderful experience to sum it all up.
Great. So how was your first assignment?
So the good thing here is that everybody here, no matter what course you're doing, they give you something called rubrics. This will give you information on how your paper will be graded. So they will not only have a question, they'll have the question and then they'll have a table where they'll give you criteria on which you will get marks. So whenever you're answering your question, see to it that you have answered all these categories that is mentioned in the rubrics. It can be it can include number of resources to be cited, whether your question answered particular criteria, whether, for example, for my assignment, I had to make sure that I'm connecting real world experience with, whatever I'm writing, whether I've understood the concept and I'm able to apply in real world. So I'm citing an example of, how I'm doing it. To give you a more appropriate example would be, one of the assignment asked me a question, what I think about enforcing rehab for patients. For example, some patients are forced to go to rehab by law in the US, and also some of them might even be appointed a guardianship. For example, the most famous case would be Britney Spears' case, where her father was given the guardianship. He's supposed to handle her finances and her decisions and everything. So this is the example I quoted in my assignment. So that's where I'm making connections with the real world, the concepts that I've learned in the course, that, some patients will have to go through treatment because the court ordered it. So how do I make connections with the real world and, what I think about it? So many of these reflection papers will be given based on the course you're doing. So again, coming back to the questions, you'll have these rubrics to, kind of go through. So really, my first assignment was really easy comparatively to do because of these rubrics. So I knew which category, what all to be mentioned in assignment. Again, if I did have questions on one of the assignment, I wasn't getting marked based on one description. And she even mentioned, many professors give you feedback on your assignments so you can kind of improve in your future assignments. So, one of the criteria and the rubrics, I was not meeting it. And then I asked the professor, what is it that you're looking for exactly? And then she answered. And then next assignment, again, I got full marks because, I was able to, answer all those questions because I had a doubt. I asked the faculty, she clarified, I did better in the next assignment. So that's kind of, ask your faculty if you are in doubt. So to sum it all up, the assignment process was easy because all the information was provided by the faculty. Yeah.
So you mean to say that rubrics would be the checklist that you should follow before submitting the assignment?
Yes, you can
that,
use it as a checklist, yes.
Yeah. So other than that, do you have any other resources or tools that can help you, you use it before submitting the assignment?
Yeah. So assignment submission, again, your faculty will mention if you have to do it in a particular format. For example, my courses are regarding mental health. So I will be following APA format, which is American Psychology Association. So I have to follow APA format, and it is available online. If you just Google how to write a paper in APA format, you will get everything. I need to mention a title page. I need to mention page numbers, and then each paragraph, how I'm supposed to indent paragraphs. So make sure your format is correct. Depending on the course you're taking, your faculty member will mention what format to follow, writing assignment. So make sure that format is followed. Please stick by default to Times New Roman, the best font available. Again, depending on the format, because I feel each format has their own, fonts to use, but make sure your writing is clear, legible. Of course, everything is typewritten, but follow the format. Very important to follow the format. And as Whitney pointed out, citation is very important. Okay. The cool thing is you can copy the exact quotation written on the research paper, but you need to put in the quotation marks and you need to mention citation in the brackets. So the cool thing about citation is you don't have the need to paraphrase the sentence. You can, copy paste the thing, but mention citation. Always mention citation, because if you copy paste and don't mention citation, they're going to mark as plagiarism. So make sure that all your citations are there. Some of the reflection papers, I did not have to follow the APA format. And just based on your experience and your thoughts about the topic. So you can kind of continue that way. So always follow the rubrics. Rubrics is like your best friend, you can say that, for your assignments. So kind of, like you said, a checklist to kind of follow that, and make sure your grammar is correct. You can use apps like Grammarly to help you with your grammars and spellings. And my suggestion is that you use Google Documents to write your assignments, because it kind of saves as you're writing. To give you an example, I had a personal experience where I was using an old laptop to write my assignment, and I was writing it on Microsoft Word, which was not online, and my laptop went blank and my assignment is gone. I had to redo it. And I actually had to ask professor to give me some time to submit it again, to redo the assignment because the laptop went blank. Nothing was saved. So make sure you do it on Google Doc, where your assignment is saved. And I think you can ask your faculty member in which format to submit the assignment. But yes, so to sum it all up, make sure you follow the rubrics, and that if you have any questions on the rubrics, you can ask the faculty member. Second point would be, please remember that your citations are, there, your resources are cited. All your resources are, bundled up at the end. And third thing would be, check your format of the paper. your spelling mistakes, your grammatical errors, and everything, because it should be clear and legible so that the professor understands what point you're putting through. And fourth would be, of course, like Whitney pointed out, I too have a writing center at my university. I have access to it, I mean, and you can totally go to them anytime. You can shoot them an email saying that I have doubts about whether my assignment is, written well. They will help you for sure. I haven't used it yet, but I'm sure I might need it in the future. But please don't hesitate to ask them. So that would
Okay.
be, yeah, that would be.
So you were talking about citation. Are there
Mhm.
any styles in it? Do you have different types of citation styles?
So like I said, I follow APA format. So for me, APA
Okay.
format citation is when I quote something from the research paper, I'm supposed to mention the authors and the year
Mhm.
that the
Okay.
research paper was published in brackets. And then I
Mhm.
have an APA format bibliography at the end of the paper. So there's something called resources as the title of the page. And under that, I'm supposed to mention the author, the
Yes.
year it was published, the topic of the research paper, and the source that it is published in. So it can be a scientific journal. Yeah, mostly I'm supposed to cite resources from scientific journals only. Those are the good forms of resources. And I would suggest all of you out there to please use authentic or reliable sources. Don't just, you know, a quote things randomly from the website just because it's there. Some of them will not be valid, are not reliable. So make sure you quote from peer-reviewed journals, but it depends totally on the course you're doing. Um, so yeah, citation, I follow APA. Yours might be different. So whatever format it is, you can ask the writing center to send you resources where you can understand what the format is, how to cite. Uh, I've already told you the format for APA. For your, it will be different. So yeah, different formats have different citations have different formats. So make sure you follow
So you
that.
were, yeah, so you were talking about resources.
Mhm.
Will your professor give any suggestions on these resources?
So I had so as part of the course, our faculty did give us a website where, of course, it's again, university has certain online courses which you can do to which kind of points out at what kinds of resources are there. Uh, for psychology, we are supposed to quote only from peer-reviewed journal papers. So these are research papers that have been reviewed by other people of the same field, other experts on the same field who have read the paper and reviewed that, yes, this person has written some valid, has mentioned some valid points. So it's mainly research papers on scientific
Okay,
reviews. Yeah. You
great.
can usually go on googlescholarly.com. So whenever you're
Okay.
searching something, always add scholarly articles. So you will be taken to peer-reviewed articles. So those are good sources. And there another one example I can give. There are, of course, plenty of examples of bad sources. For example,
Mhm.
you go to this website, you ask a question on Google, you click on the first site, and it has a lot of advertisements on the side. It is giving you the content on the left, but there are a lot of advertisements on the side. This is
Yes,
a
yes.
bad source. So these people are
Okay,
just
great.
advertising there. And also at the end, they'll be like, subscribe to us, or our product will help you. So it's an advertising. So they have a biased opinion on the topic. So it cannot be
Mm.
relied upon. So those are bad sources. So make sure you know what good sources are and what bad sources are, what you can
Okay.
rely on. And
Mhm.
your faculty member will give you, again, my course, we do rely on research papers a lot. So I did have to go through this one topic called good sources and bad sources. It was kind of a kind of a, a small YouTube video created by the university, not exactly YouTube, but just a PowerPoint presentation created by the university to help us do the assignment so that we quote only good sources and valid sources and avoid all the bad sources for citation. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Zeba. We have questions from our students. Before that, I would also like, Whitney to answer a few questions. Whitney, if you're there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
So we were talking about resources available online, like Google Scholar. I mean, for citing or taking, reference from. So, can students use external paid resources for assignments?
The easy and hard answer is no.
Okay. Okay.
If you at any point in your academic career are paying someone money to do an assignment for you, that is very, very, very bad. And could very much lead to academic discipline. So you should not be paying anyone on the internet. You should never pay a friend to complete an assignment for you.
Great. Thank you. So, see, if a student is going to attend a lab, do you give orientation? Department, does it give orientation on code of conduct, how to use resources in the laboratory? Can you emphasize on this?
In some scenarios, yes, especially if you are using, dangerous materials, for example. What I've actually seen in a lot of laboratories, the code of conducts are on the wall. They were printed out. They're really big, so you know exactly what you need to do. And if you don't see them, and if you're unsure, again, ask. Are there any code of conducts that I need to be aware of for this laboratory? So yes, so some labs you might be given an orientation, but every university will have computer labs, for example, which are just laboratories that are just computers that are for student use. And you will most likely see something written on the wall for code of conducts in those areas. No food or drink is one of the universal ones. If it's a computer lab, don't bring in the drinks. You could ruin the computer. But keep in mind that a lot of these are just common sense, right? So obviously you wouldn't bring a hammer and start, hitting the computers, right? So just if you're using common sense and if you're being, a good student, there's a really good chance you'll never get in trouble. But of course, those code of conducts will be presented to you or will be visible to you in most scenarios.
Great. So I see a question from student about exams in US. So I would like Zeba to answer this question. So how do you see exam?
So for my course, in my university, we have 3 plans, plan A, B, C. My course falls under plan C, where I don't have exams. I only have assignments. And some professors do keep quizzes, but it was open book. So I could look at my notes and answer the question online. So it really depends on the course you're taking. Again, I'm pretty sure undergrad students will definitely have exams for sure. But for graduate students, it kind of depends on the course you're taking. And for me, my experience was the quizzes were easy because it's an open book exam. So I could the faculty members asked us to make notes, important notes from the textbook so I can easily refer because when the quiz was timed, so it's difficult for you to keep searching in the textbook where the answer is. So it's best to make notes. And then it will definitely make it easier for you to answer the questions. But again, this was just to test whether you guys are reading the text or not. It was, kind of, emphasizing on the importance of the text. That's all. Again, the course that I'm taking right now is also going to have, so out of the uh, 4 courses, I just have quizzes for 2 courses. Again, both of them are open book, so
Okay.
I can't really say much on uh, undergrad exams or the other courses, how their exams go.
Okay.
But mainly, even the MBA peers that I've had, they've said that it's mostly based on a practical knowledge and not real. And I think importance is given to assignments.
Okay.
Many courses, the grading and everything depends on your assignments and your participation in class. So make sure that is there.
Yeah.
You
So
keep that
Whitney,
in mind.
Whitney, do you have anything to add to this point about exams?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a bachelor's degree and 2 masters, right? So I've had a lot of classes in my life. Um, yes, as Zeba said, it's very much dependent on your subject area and your professor. I have had in my academic career where one assignment or one exam is your full grade, which of course can be very stressful. But most courses you're taking will have a number of assignments, maybe a few quizzes, maybe a final exam, maybe a midterm. Um, and so, again, my recommendation for you, though, is to read the syllabus before, like right when you get it, because that will tell you, 50% of your grade will be the final. And then you have to do these 3 assignments during the year. So keep in mind that every professor will be different, and what they allow on exams. I have never in my academic career had an open book test. That sounds nice. I'm a little bit jealous. So, again, every professor, every academic discipline will be slightly different. So just make sure you understand when you start the class.
Great. So the same student, Asma, has another question. Is recording of professor's lecture for the first few weeks acceptable? As an international student, the language barrier might cause some gap in learning until we get adjusted. So, Zeba, could you please answer this?
I don't think recording is allowed. If you have any doubts on whether you'll be able to understand the class or not, please ask the faculty before recording. Please don't do it without their permission. And yeah, always ask permission. Here, recording is kind of, it's I don't know, it's more on privacy and also the classroom. You're coming and recording classes. What if you show it to someone else? It's just that please ask permission. It depends on the faculty. Ask the faculty. And if you have language barrier, you can always ask your classmates, make good friends. And even now, I think you have some time to prepare. Watch shows without subtitles. You kind of can get adjusted to their accent and their speed of, English communication. But most probably, I don't think you will face that problem if you have scored really good in your TOEFL and IELTS exam. I'm guessing you won't have that problem because the accent that you see on some of the shows, I don't think faculty members will have kind of the same accent. So they're going to be clear on the way they speak. I'm pretty sure you will understand. If you have a high score in your listening skills in TOEFL and IELTS, I'm pretty sure you will totally understand what the professor is saying. But in case you still have doubts, make good friends so that you can ask your classmates in doubt. And regarding the recording, please ask permission. And I think Whitney can add to that.
Okay. Whitney, so do students have any preparatory courses to get adjusted to the language barrier they have?
That will depend on your university.
Okay.
I know that adjusting to accents can be difficult. And, there are some very bizarre accents here in the United States that your ear might not be accustomed to. So, it might take a few weeks, might take a month to get adjusted to that. But if you're struggling to understand your professor, you can always go to their office hours and just say, like, you were talking about something like this. I missed it. Can you help me? So, keep in mind that using those office hours that the faculty has can definitely help with you. You can always ask them to talk slower. And usually, if it's like a class where the professor is talking in front of you, you'll have some visual reference as well. Like they'll have a PowerPoint that they're using.
Yes.
And often they'll make that PowerPoint available to you as well. So it won't just all be talking. You'll have a visual frame of reference as well. But with that said, I absolutely agree with Zeba. Always ask permission before you record anything. The professor might be like, absolutely, go for it, not a problem. And you can, go in and you can record that. But especially in certain states, recording someone without their permission is actually illegal. So make sure that you are asking your faculty before you record it. And oftentimes they'll say, yeah, go for it. But back to my main presentation, if you're recording your faculty and you're going back in an assignment and you're listening to it and you're writing down word for word what they said, you have to cite them. They are then a reference. If you are quoting them directly, put it in quotations, cite them and the lecture.
Great. So another question we have is, can I have my professor check my paper before official submission to ensure it's good? Zeba.
I don't think so, no. They'll be like, I'm going to consider this an official assignment, but I think Whitney can best answer this. And my guess is no. But you can ask them, like, if you have doubt regarding some assignments or question, maybe you can ask that. Best resource to go to is Writing Center. Writing Center is best. They will review your paper. You can kind of give that paper to them and ask them if I've answered the questions, and they will, kind of check your grammar, your format, your citation. I think it's best to go to the Writing Center. But again, with faculty members, I think you should, just ask if you have questions regarding any questions, but I'm not sure if you can, ask if I can submit this paper and ask them if it's good enough or not. I think Whitney should know better. My guess is no.
So when I was a faculty member, I would not allow this, specifically because it's my time then. I'd have to grade your paper twice effectively. However, what is accepted almost universally here in the United States, or well, here in the United States at least, with every faculty, is if you have questions and say, this is my thoughts, this is what I want to present, go to the office hours. I am, as well as most professors, are happy to sit down with you and kind of talk about your thought process, talk about the formulas you're using, help you understand certain aspects of an assignment. But they're not, you can't just give them an assignment and say, grade this, please, before I have to turn it in. They won't do that. But again, use those office hours. They'll be great.
So another student says, I'm an introvert and a bit shy. Will I lose points or grades if I don't speak in the class?
Should I? Okay, yeah. Okay. So that's a difficult question to ask because, again, in my own class, very few people talk, but I don't think that's affecting their grades. But it's good to speak. I think you can start practicing, but I'm sure you won't lose points. In case of group discussions where the teacher's putting you in a group, see to it that you speak. Again, if the teacher's asking people to, speak on this topic, thoughts, don't be shy. Try to, speak, but I'm sure your grades won't be affected because of that. But your class participation does matter.
So,
And
hmm,
yeah,
go ahead.
please ask. Yeah. What I'm saying is that if you participate in class, it's a good thing. You'll have an impression, because in the future, if you need any, for example, teaching assistants, or anything in the future with the faculty will know you, and you'll be able to get help from that faculty. It's kind of like an creating an impression that you are very much present in the class. It's more about that. And also, I think it depends on the course. Some courses may ask you to have group participation, that their group activity. So in that, maybe that group activity may be graded. So it depends on the class that you're taking. So really, but I do encourage you to participate in class. It's actually a really good thing to do. That no pressure is all I'm saying.
So, Whitney, their grades will not be affected. Is this what you mean to say? Whitney, could you please add on to this? Not
So, I
speaking
mean,
in class. Yeah.
this will depend on the faculty again.
Okay.
And so if part of your grade is a participation grade, which you might
Oh,
see, um, and again, you'll find that in the syllabus first thing. It should clarify what participation means. So is it that you're attending classes in person? Awesome.
mhm.
Is it that you are actually actively participating in those discussions? That's something that it should tell you in the syllabus. With that said, I know that going and attending a university in a new country can be very intimidating, especially at first.
Yes.
So don't feel like you have to hop in day one and immediately start answering questions.
Mhm.
Um, you might, however, have a faculty member who will just call out a student's name. Be like, question of the day is X, Y, and Z Zeba. What do you think? At which point, yes, you will most likely have to say something, of course. But if you're really shy, you can always let your faculty member know, like, hey, I'm just a little bit nervous. I'm in a new country, so I might not participate as much right off the bat. Just give me a few weeks.
Okay.
But you shouldn't be worried about saying anything wrong either, right? We all know you're there to learn. If you already had all the right answers, you wouldn't need school.
Great. So,
Yeah,
there's
definitely
another
agree with
question.
Whitney on that. Please don't hesitate on speaking something wrong. It's fine, totally fine.
Okay. So, a student asks, some universities have writing center. Will there be any problem if a student goes to them and take their help?
I think we have answered that a lot
Yes,
many
yes.
times. We have mentioned that it's completely okay to go to a writing center. Actually, they are your best source. Someone asked the question if you could go to faculty member and give them the paper. No, go to the writing center first, and then
Okay.
maybe submit it to the faculty members.
Great.
And
Yeah.
as Whitney pointed out, maybe you can meet them in person, your faculty
Mm.
members, during office hours. Um, but then again, I think your writing center is the best resource you have. Yeah.
Uh, so, Whitney, we have many students who take up computer science as their, you know, major or master's specialization. So, can you please tell if there are any regulations regarding programming and coding that students should keep in mind?
Yes, absolutely. So computer science is also very popular at my university. Um,
Okay.
and I'm not a computer scientist, I will warn you, but it is absolutely possible to complete or to have plagiarism with
Mm,
coding.
mm,
Um, this is what I've heard from faculty in this discipline is that coding is almost like a signature.
mm,
So if you take someone's code and you use it exactly like their code, that is plagiarism. If that's the assignment, right? And so you have to give them credit for that code or write your own code. So often faculty will be able to see this. I, of course, would not, because I'm not in the computer sciences. I have no idea what the zeros and ones mean. But they will be able to see if your code exactly matches another student's code. Keep in mind also that with technology today, anything you submit, and most things you submit, you'll actually submit online now. There are systems, and there are, there's technology that faculty use and the university uses overall that will see if things are coded exactly the same way. They will see if you have pulled a reference, right? So even when I'm submitting an assignment, I can go in and I can see where this is picked up. That, I have word for words. And if I haven't cited that, that's plagiarism, right? So with computer science, as well as any discipline, yes, you can commit plagiarism with coding, with, any of your assignments. So make sure, again, that you're doing your own work.
There's another question. If I'm working in a group and some group member do not submit or do their work, they do not complete their work, should I complain to my professor?
So I actually had this incident happen in class with one of the groups. This student came up and said that this person is not working at all. I've been pressuring this person to, write the paper. But so what she did was silently ask the professor to put her in a different group. And I'm not sure if she exactly complained about the person or not, but she just simply asked the faculty member to, I cannot be a part of this group. So she shifted her, group. So that's what happened. I'm not sure if you can kind of point out that the student is not working. Maybe you can kind of work with the faculty with, some alternative. Just be diplomatic about it, because you don't want the other student to know that you're the snitch. I'm not sure here, but I wouldn't go to the faculty member complaining about this and so. But again, I think Whitney should be best to answer this. Right now, my answer is like, don't do that. Just think of an alternative. Just think of an alternative. But again, Whitney should, I think, add to that.
So there's certain steps, of course, that you can take. The first step that I would always recommend is to actually speak to the student themselves. I understand that this can be very uncomfortable. But sometimes if you're working in a group, you can even have your other group members join you and just say, you're not contributing as much as the rest of us, and you do need to step up. Sometimes that works. If you have a classmate and you're in an assignment with them and they've actually done nothing, they are not responding to you, they haven't done anything, putting their name on that assignment is actually academic dishonesty. You're committing plagiarism on their behalf, right? Because they've done none of this work. In that scenario, you can always ask your faculty member, what should we do? Should we not include their name on the assignment? And often they'll say, yes, don't put their name on the assignment. Thank you for alerting us. But, there is a line, right? If they wrote a few sentences, if they edited some things, technically they did contribute, but they really didn't do much of that work. So utilize your faculty member in that sense and say, hey, and you don't have to call them out. You can just say, we have a group member that really hasn't done anything for this assignment. Do you have recommendations on what we should do in this case? So you're not directly saying, oh, Zeba did nothing, like you should fail her. It's, can you recommend what we should do in this case?
Great. So another question is, when student is using images or music from internet to submit his project, what is that he needs to do? I mean, cite the image. I think it would be better if he could, give the name or picture courtesy of the
Yeah, I think,
person.
yeah, the citation is, of course, there. So you can, the thing about, well, at least in APA formatting, you have this format to follow, like the author's name, the title of the page you're getting it from, and the source you're quoting it from. So you can kind of follow the same format for picture and videos as well. I would recommend an app called Zotero, if you would like to
Zotero.
note it down. It's Zotero. This will kind of help you with citations and references. You can go to YouTube and kind of see tutorials on how to use the app, but that's like the most helpful resources. So you can, what it does is you can add your paper to the app, and the app will give you the citation for that particular, whether it be a video or an image or a web page or a research paper, it's going to give you the citation and bibliography for that particular, source. So even for your images and videos, please cite them.
Okay, great.
Always. Yeah.
So Asma has another question. Sometimes the material we want to use in our paper is already a referred material in a website, for example, NASA. Should we use the main source like NASA as our reference or the website?
So this is called as secondary sources. So there's something called primary sources and secondary sources. So for secondary sources, again, you'll be quoting that. In APA format, what we do is, for example, NASA quoted by so and so. So in the brackets, we mention, quoted by, the main author is this person, quoted in the author of the paper you are taking the quotation from. So that's the format we follow in APA. Then again, you can check your formatting. There's Chicago formatting, there's MLA, the different kind of formats available. So you kind of can ask your faculty what format to follow, and yeah, you can cite the references that way. So you mention both the sources. You can mention the original sources because they have already referenced NASA. So kind of use the formats.
Okay, great. Whitney, do you have anything to add here?
No, that was great. Perfect. 100%.
Great. So I think we've answered all the questions. I'm checking this chat box again.
I would do like to add, back in India, when we have our Indian classmates, we ask each other, please, can you give me our assignment? And they copy. I'm telling you, in India, we are still handwriting assignments. In US, we don't do that. In US, we are typing the assignment. So it's very easy to detect plagiarism. So I understand that, when you're an Indian community, you have Indian friends, you're asking each other. I've actually heard of incident where one of my friend, she was asked to give her assignment. She actually went through the assignment, asked, told him how to do the assignment, and he still kept pressuring her to give the assignment. She did not do that. So if you ever face something like that, someone is asking you to give your assignment, please don't give your assignment. And please don't ask anybody else to give their assignment for you to finish. Please don't do that. Do it on your own. If you have any questions, ask people. Please be honest in writing your assignments. That's the main advice for you guys.
Great. So we are actually, it's 7:28. So I would like to thank Whitney and Zeba for joining us today. Though it was very inconvenient time for you to join the session, so you accepted our invitation, and we are very happy to have you with us. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Asta Deborah for supporting from the backend, and I would especially thank my team members at YF. Thank you, Usha Madam and Rahim, for supporting me in this session. So, Rahim, could you place the slide? So the next session in the series is all about beyond the classroom activities at US University. So if you want to know more about on-campus, off-campus events, clubs, cultural activities, I think this is going to be more fun. We request students to join this series, the session in the series on June 30th, which is again the next Thursday, same time, 6 to 7:30 p.m. So I wish all the students there all the best for your academic journey in the US. I hope this should give you a wonderful experience. I hope you'll really enjoy there, and all the best. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.